Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crowley. I'm back with another video. This is number 31 in my ongoing series of question and answer videos. I uploaded a brief video this past Monday requesting questions, got more than 2,000 comments to choose from, and I selected my favorite 20 or so, and we're going to begin with one from Let's Engineer, who says, "Hey Mark, huge fan of yours. Will you ever host a tutorial series of turning real-life people into manga illustrations?" Well, I don't know if it's going to become a series, but I thought I could start today with taking on this challenge, and I've got here an actual photograph of the actress Audrey Hepburn, and what I want to do is over here on this side do a manga-style drawing of her. Now, this is not a tutorial, it's a Q&A video, but if people like it, maybe I can do a separate video in which I show my technique, which in a way, I'm kind of practicing today. I haven't done a whole lot of this, trying to do manga versions of famous people. But let's go ahead and get into it. And to launch off, I'm going to begin with a question from user Zangetsu. Have your story ideas ever been rejected? Well, that's an interesting question that I don't think I've answered before. And the truth is, yes, they have been rejected, but not in a way that brought me to tears or anything. Some of you may know that I used to do a series of young reader novels called the Akiko series, or as I pronounced it, Akiko. I'll pull one out here to show you. This was the 9th book in the series, Akiko Pieces of Gax. And what I used to do is, as I reached the end of one book, I would propose maybe 2 or 3 possible storylines that the publisher could look at and consider and tell me would they like to do it. So in a way, the ones that they didn't choose were the rejected ones. Not like they said, this is a terrible idea. They just said, well, this is the one we want to do. And I do remember distinctly that I proposed one that was probably a hard sell in a way, because it was an idea of having my heroes, Akiko and her friends, up against nature itself. It was going to be like a survival tale. Maybe they crash landed in some sort of Arctic terrain or something like that. I was a big fan of reading books about true life survival stories and that sort of thing back then, and so I thought, hey, that would be fun to tell a story like that. And unfortunately, they didn't go for that one. And I think it is, if you think about it, it's fairly unconventional for a young reader novel. The target age group for that series was something like ages 8 to 12. Not so common to have a survival story told in that format. I would have enjoyed doing it, but yes, that was a sort of rejected story idea there. So let's move on to the next one. A little lengthy. I had to use wider format on this one. Why do you choose to draw in a variety of styles? I've seen many artists dedicated to only one style, like Manga-Style, but you draw in realistic and manga. Does choosing one style make one a better artist? This question from Arif Lok. And yeah, it is true. Thank you, first of all, for acknowledging that I work in different styles. Sometimes people think that I only work in the manga style. And I really have sort of labored in recent years to, by way of my books and videos, to show that I like working in lots of different styles. So thanks for acknowledging that. And it's a great topic for discussion, because I think there are different breeds of artists in this regard. There are artists who do choose sort of a single style pretty early on in their youth, or maybe they don't find it until later, but they really settle on one style, and they're very focused on kind of honing that style for the rest of their lives. And to be sure, there is a clear advantage to that. You become an expert in this one style. You are able to, I suppose, achieve a sort of perfection that someone like me, who keeps changing styles, is probably never going to achieve. I keep going from one to the other. I get maybe halfway good at one of them, and then I just start doing a different kind and get halfway good at that. The classic, jack of all trades, master of none thing. And the truth is, as I consider the answer to this question, I think you just have to be true to who you are. You got to be true to your instincts. It's not to me it seems strange to have a very calculated decision about what kind of artist should I be. You have to just sort of listen to your heart, it seems to me, and if you are by nature someone who wants to do lots of different styles, you're going to be happier working that way than sort of confining yourself by way of some sort of sacred vow that you've made. I shall, from this day henceforth, I will only draw in one style. I think you got to just listen to your heart and become the kind of artist that feels right for you. And for me, that means working in lots of different styles. And it's worked out okay for me. There's just benefits and drawbacks to both approaches. And the key to life really is finding something that you enjoy doing and doing it as much as you can for the rest of your life. You don't want to be making these sort of scientific calculated choices just because you've been told by somebody that this is the best way. So anyway, that's my answer to that question. Just a quick word about what I'm doing here. In order to make Audrey into a sort of anime version, I'm enlarging the eyes. That's a pretty obvious thing that you want to do, but with changing a character or changing a real-life person into a manga version of themselves. But also shifting the eyes lower. You see that the eyes are higher on the head. Shifting it down lower is a classic manga attribute. But as I said, this video is not going to be a tutorial. Let's move on to the third question from, listen to this name, Kara Ellie Eats Paint. Please don't eat paint, Kara Ellie. I don't think it's such a good idea. Do you need to be thick-skinned to be a successful artist? Well, it certainly helps. You're going to face criticism from at least one person eventually, and you might as well develop a thick skin. But again, this is another one of these things that kind of comes from your natural temperament as a person. Some people are very thick-skinned, and everything just sort of rolls off their back, and they're able to very truthfully say, I don't care what you think. You don't like my art? Well, tough luck. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. And if you are blessed with that sort of natural attitude in life, then it's very easy for you to deal with criticism, namely to just ignore it. I'm not such a person. I'm a little more thin-skinned, I suppose, or a little sensitive, possibly overly sensitive about criticism and that kind of thing. I have to sort of train myself to ignore negative comments. But some of this also comes with age. As you get older, you finally start to realize, look, you're not going to please everybody. That's just impossible. So some people are going to like what you're doing. Some people are going to hate it, and for sure you want to be open to criticism, especially well-informed criticism that seems to come from someone who knows what they're talking about. But if you feel hurt and by people who criticize your work, that's a natural thing. Don't feel like, oh, I'll never be able to succeed as an artist because I'm not thick-skinned enough. I think you can overcome that. You can just sort of cope with it. And just tell yourself, and I believe this is true, being thin-skinned or sensitive is evidence of being attuned to the world, to being observant and listening and caring, and those are good things. And it's sort of a trade-off. Maybe you wish you could be more thick-skinned, but then you might lose some of that sensitivity that you have. Anyway, both of those last questions kind of come back to the same principle of, be true to who you are as an artist. Here we go to number 4 from Oliver Mansfield. Why do most nice art pencils not have an eraser at the end? Are artists not allowed to make mistakes or something? What gives? Yes, I got to say, I also have been sort of puzzled by that. Here's a tiny little pencil that I'm almost going to have to throw away at some point. As you see, there is no eraser at the end, and it can be sort of puzzling to a young artist. What happened to my eraser? Why did you get rid of the eraser? Do you think that I need to stop making any erasing, I have to stop making mistakes and not be allowed to erase anymore. And if you come to that conclusion, that's very unfortunate, because I think almost all great artists do. I mean, you've seen me already a few times here erasing, making little corrections. It's important to erase, and indeed, you see me using this Dixon Ticonderoga that does have a eraser at the end, because I'm one of those artists who finds it a little frustrating to switch back and forth from the pencil to some other erasing device. And I think the concept behind these high-class art pencils or fine-quality art pencils is that you may want to use this for years, gradually over time. Erasers do have a sort of a lifespan, and eventually these will dry out and become unusable. So I guess they've just sort of decided to separate the two things so that you can get a little more precise about what kind of eraser do you want, what kind of pencil do you want. And that's why it is done that way. But as I say, I myself am still using a Dixon Ticonderoga. I like being able to just quickly flip around, and I would not judge on either side of that. Use the pencil that works best for you. All of these things keeps coming back to the same thing. Be true to yourself. Don't let others tell you how to be an artist. Do it your own way. That's basically my philosophy, and you hear me saying it again and again, sometimes within the same video. Let's move on to the next question. This one from Elo Kitty Draws. I can't decide, is that Elo or is it Elo? Everyone from England is, no, don't do the British accent. Anyway, the question is, do you have any secret characters that you wanted to make a story out of but never got the chance? Love this question. I don't know if I've ever had that question before. And thinking back, I've got loads of story ideas that have never been turned into stories. And there is one character from one of them. I can't tell you the whole concept of the story, but I had a story that involved a character that was like a swamp creature, like a creature from the Black Lagoon, except even more oozy. I don't know if you've ever seen Swamp Thing, that old comic, but it really does look like a creature that came out of the muck, and is dripping with all the sort of algae and so forth of having come out of a swamp. I had a concept of a sort of funny character that was a swamp creature by nature, but also wanted to dress up in like prep school clothing, so that you had this very creepy looking skin combined with the person who's wearing nice, polo sweaters or whatever, looks like he wants to go out on the tennis court and knock a few balls about, who knew. And I thought it just seemed to me a funny character to combine the really slimy skin surface with someone who wants to dress in this kind of upper class, super clean, preppy way. And I do, because I've never followed through with that story, I do kind of regret that character has never seen the light of day. But who knows? Maybe someday. I can't even remember the name now. I know I had a name. I probably gave him some very sort of Nigel, I think that might even been it. Some very sort of wealthy sounding name, or, very British sounding name. And then had him... Again, just beyond his preppy clothing, you would see the oozing, slimy, moss-covered substance of his body. Anyway, so there's a creature that remains on the cutting room floor or in my sort of box of ideas. Maybe someday you will see that character in a story. Here we go to 123 Orangia. Or is it 1230 Rangia? I'm sorry if I'm making fun of your YouTube names here. I'm just a goofball. Here's the question. Are there any particular methods / techniques you personally don't like? And I have to think that they're talking about artistic techniques, for drawing styles or drawing methods. I would say the one thing that I really find it hard to accept is super bright colors and a combination of lots and lots of colors within the same illustration. That just, just never really looks that good to me. I don't want to pass judgment on other people who work that way, but those sort of bright primary colors, almost looks like tutti frutti ice cream, kind of like super colorful. For whatever reason, that's just that has never looked great to me. Certainly not in my own art. Although interestingly, some of you maybe saw when I was showing the manga art the other day, that I did challenge myself to do an illustration that had lots and lots of colors put together. So that was sort of a deliberate attempt to force myself to work that way. Anyway, so yeah, I would say that's one of them. In an earlier video, I maybe had a similar question years ago in one of these Q&As, and that time I mentioned how I don't like the really super thick line cartooning style that you see, or used to see anyway, on Cartoon Network. There just was a whole series of cartoons that everything had a really thick, like Timmy Turner kind of border to it, and I just got a little tired of that. I feel like styles have moved on and that there's a wider variety of styles now. Anyway, so there's a couple of things that just I would never choose to work in. I'm very hesitant to pass judgment, though. If you're a fan of those styles, don't think that I'm saying that they're bad or whatever. It's just personal taste. All right, let's see about question number 7. From Stetifier. As a teacher in training myself, what do you find is your biggest barrier to teaching others art? This one really made me think, what is it? What is the barrier? What do I find is the most difficult thing about teaching people art? Well, one thing I think is I feel like there's something about art that causes people to focus on their limitations. Those who feel that they're not good at drawing, they just really latch onto that idea and they almost proudly declare, I'm terrible. My drawings suck. I can't even draw a stick man. I'm the worst. It's this very negative sort of self-punishing kind of attitude, and it just seems mysterious to me because for me, I'm not good at sports. But I don't go around saying, I'm terrible, I couldn't shoot a basket if you held me over the basket, and the ball still wouldn't go through the hoop. It's like I just don't focus on that. I don't dwell on my lack of greatness in a certain ability or pursuit. But I feel like with art, a lot of people do kind of get hung up on that. And they just get so frustrated and angry, and I always want to convey to people that there's more than one way to draw. And if I were an art teacher, it maybe goes against what you're trying to teach, but I would almost want to show people examples of artists who succeeded with non-traditional art styles that kind of look a little ugly, styles that don't use super smooth lines, and show them that, look, if you've got good ideas, if you've got enthusiasm, if you've got persistence, not everyone has to draw with these super beautiful lines. Not everyone is pursuing realism. Not every, we can find different ways, and I do think that needs to be stressed. A lot of people don't maybe assume that there is one agreed upon good way of drawing. And I think it's very important to clarify to people that is not the case. It's a little tricky because, in the world of post-Jackson Pollock, who just spattered paint, that puts teachers into a difficult position of a kid who just goes home and grabs a bottle of paint and just pours it on the paper and brings it in and says, here, this is my abstract expressionist whatever, and so that, of course, that it's too easy to abuse that system by making no effort at all. So I think in a way art teachers are stuck and find themselves having to say, okay, look, we're in this class, we're going to be teaching you how to draw realistically, and that's the goal, and you're just going to have to accept that. But I don't know. If I were a professional art teacher, my goal would be to have everyone be able to pursue different styles of art, maybe within the same class, and open their eyes to the fact that there are so many different ways of creating art. Anyway, I don't know if I was very helpful there in my answer, but we'll just have to move on to this question from Wolf. Will I be able to draw 121 pages in 3 months? Wow. I'm assuming that you mean comic book pages, Wolf, and that is very, very ambitious. I got to say, depending on the style that you're working at, I find it very hard to do any more than 1 page in a day. And then, what you've come up with there in terms of the number of pages in a month is like, even by my approach, I would not calculate doing 1 page every single day, week after week. You need a break in there somewhere. How about if you give yourself 6 days working, 1 day off at least per week, and then calculate it from there. So for me, I would imagine 1 page per day, six pages per week, and then extrapolate from there. Now, this is based on, my style of creating comics, which is fairly detailed. If you're doing a very loose, undetailed, a lot of blank backgrounds, that is to say, panels that have no background at all, you could work conceivably much quicker. None of this even brings in the idea of color, which brings in a whole nother thing. I would never agree to provide full color comic pages, even at the rate of 1 per day. I'd need probably another day to do the coloring. Full color. So I would be down to 1 page per 2 days. Anyway, hope that was helpful. Everyone works in different ways. Some people super fast. But I don't know of anyone who's able to maintain constant work every single day of the week with no days off for months on end without burnout of some kind. So I would say, work in a little break somewhere, or else be a Superman, be an artistic, mighty warrior. That's the only way you're going to produce that much in such a short period of time. Let's move on to number 9 here from Blazing14. What is the best way to enhance your drawing skills on your own without classes? Imagining that you have no teacher at all. I've said this before, but I did want to say it again. I can't assume that everyone's seen every one of my videos, but I do believe that studying other artists' work and doing what we call studies, which are indeed copies of their work, not with an eye toward passing it off as your own work, but you're trying to unlock their secrets. Doing studies of art by the great masters can teach you almost everything that you need to know about art. So I would, if I were stuck with no teacher at all, I would just start going to the art museums, or maybe going to the library and getting oversized books that have very large reproductions of drawings by great artists. Again, it comes down to what kind of style you want to pursue, but you can't go wrong learning from the masters like Rembrandt and Da Vinci and folks like that. And then, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with learning from modern day artists, like manga artists, that kind of thing as well. Just make sure that that's not the only thing you're learning. It's probably, I think most people would agree that you don't want a diet of only cartooning, as the only kind of stuff that you're studying. So yeah, there's my best advice on that, learning to draw without a teacher. Number 10, this is the last of the long-form questions from Marachia Nolives. What do you do if you feel bad about selling your art? Another great question. I don't think I've asked or answered this one before. I don't really like selling my art, to be honest. I haven't sold my original art so much over the years. I tend to sort of hold on to it and sometimes give it as a gift. But I find that when it comes time to try to sell a work of art, unless you are famous, really famous, you're not going to get the amount of money that you would like to get. A lot of people are not willing to pay very much for art. And so in that sense, I'm sort of like, well, I'd rather just hold on to it than to sell it for $10 or something, because this drawing to me, in my mind, is worth $300 or $400 or $500. But when you start, especially to young people who don't have that kind of money, and you start saying, well, I want $500 for this detailed drawing that I made, don't expect very many people to be like, oh, okay, here's your $500. Because that just seems like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. It's a tricky thing. You know, you're in this situation of what you feel it's worth and what people are willing to pay. And I just, in general, this is not the world that I'm in. I don't make my money selling original works of art. I make my money doing books. You're not selling the art to the publisher. No, they let you keep the originals. They're just interested in having the art as a digital file that they can use to create this book. And then, you know, that's basically how I make my living. I've never been in this situation of trying to sell my originals. If I was the kind of person who goes to comic conventions and so forth, and I'm sitting at a table and showing my original artwork and selling it, but I would be much more, knowledgeable about this, and I probably would have made my peace with having to sell certain pieces for a small amount of money. But I guess this is all a very long-winded way of saying, I feel your pain, and you may have to either choose to just hold on to your artwork and make money some other way, or just swallow hard and say, okay, here you go. This is I'm not going to get as much as I want for this, but that's life, It seems to me those are your choices there. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the long-form questions. I do want to keep working on this as I try to do my manga version of Audrey Hepburn, and so I'm going to kick it into time-lapse. I'm going to really carry myself very near to the end of this illustration, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to have our lightning round questions. All right, well, I think I have things where I need them to be for now. Interestingly, though this is not a tutorial, it does sort of show you how you can use reference to create an illustration. You're not copying every single thing that you see. There's a difference between copying a photo and using a photo as a reference. I probably will have to do another video that really does turn this type of thing into a tutorial, but for now, it is time to move on to the lightning round. These are the silly, funny questions, although the first 4 or 5 of these questions, not so silly, they're actually legitimate questions. Who knew it was possible? Let's go to the first one here from Anna Adrienne. Do you have a corgi? If so, I love corgis. Well, I'm glad you love corgis. Let's go ahead and take you guys on downstairs and introduce you to our corgi. All right, so here's our new dog, Joy. Hey, Joy, how you doing? You want to say hi to YouTube people? Oh, gotta stretch a little. Yes, this is my first unveiling of Joy. Come over here by the window. She did that classic shake with the ears. Joy, come over here by the window. Why don't you come by the window? Well, she's not. She's not a very cooperative little corgi puppy. She's coming up on 1 year. I think on August 1st she'll be 1 year old. But there you go, guys. Your introduction to the one and only Joy. Oh, did you hear that? Oh! Anyone who speaks Corgi, maybe you can translate that for me. All right, see you, Joy. I got to get back to making my video. All right, well, I'm glad that I got to introduce you all to beautiful little Joy there. We've had her since September, but for some reason I never really put her into a YouTube video. I've shown videos on my Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, and so forth, but this is my first time to get her into a YouTube video. Something tells me it will not be the last time. Let's move on to lightning round question number 2 from the Gaming Pugs. Which videos take the longest to make? Oh, no question, it is the Realism Challenge videos. They take so long, and maybe that's why I don't do them very often. Let's move on to number 3 from Lakahia Newberry. What is your favorite movie? Oh, this is a tricky one. I'm going to have to split this into 3. I'm going to do a live action, I'm going to do a traditional animation, and then I'm going to do computer animation. My favorite live action remains Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Never get tired of watching that film, and a lot of the scenes in that movie I find actually very touching. Then for traditional anime, it's got to be My Neighbor Totoro, Tonari no Totoro. Everyone knows I love that one. And for computer animation, I think it still is going to have to be The Incredibles. I don't think it's been surpassed, although a close second for me would be any of the Toy Story movies and Ratatouille. Those are my faves there. Let's move on. What kind of a lightning round is this? Keep it moving, Curly, from CPO98. If you could meet any artist, dead or alive, who would it be? Oh boy, my first thought is someone like Da Vinci or Michelangelo, although I would have to learn to speak Italian. Maybe I could go to Da Vinci and say, you know, the Mona Lisa, really nice, but have you thought about blushies? I'm just saying, give it a chance, Leo. Here we go for artist Modro. What is your favorite Japanese food? This is a tricky one because I have so many Japanese foods that I love. I'm going to have to say that it is the eel, unagi. But I will qualify that by saying it's got to be really high quality at an excellent restaurant that specializes in only unagi. That is when it just becomes a masterpiece. Here from Viper Fist. If people could read minds and 2 people were reading each other's minds, wouldn't they be reading their own minds? Oh no, you're melting my brain. Viper Fist. Wow. I'm going to have to think about that one for a while. I don't know quite what to say, but I knew I had to include that one. I think maybe they are reading their own minds. The logic of it eludes me. Here from Fado Art. When did you decide that the royal birds of the ethereal plane were not going to come through with their promises of greatness and treasures, and decide to take matters into your own wings? Well, you know, there is a problem with this question because you've made a false assumption. The truth is the royal birds of the ethereal plane did come through with their promises of greatness and treasures last Tuesday afternoon. So sorry about that, Fado, but I couldn't take matters into my own wings, even if I had wings. Let's move on to number 8 from Aaron Draws. Does ice cream taste gouache-alicious or blusherific? Well, it depends on the flavor. If it's vanilla, it's going to be gouache-alicious because it looks like gouache. If it's strawberry, blusherific. Or peach. Or let's just say all the other ice cream flavors are blusherific because, you know, I love the blushies. Let's move on to number 9. Mark, you are the blushies king, but is there such a thing as too many blushies? From Sharday Ewing. What a question. And you may see that I left a gap here, and I'll tell you there's a reason why I did that. I wanted to be able to fold this in half and separate it because this first one, Mark, you are the blushies king. You know, I want to say thank you. Yes, I am the blushies king, and thank you for acknowledging that. But this second part, is there such a thing as too many blushies? I cannot tolerate this question. I'm sorry that I had to resort to that. Just to make an example of you. There is never such thing as too many blushies. Here from Ben Toons, our final question. On a scale of 1 to potato, what is your favorite color of the alphabet? I think the answer's got to be either Constantinople or William Shatner. Let's move on now to the final thing in the video, and that is, of course, adding blushies to Audrey Hepburn. I hope that Audrey the estate of Audrey Hepburn doesn't mind her having blushies. I think it is the proper finishing touch for this video. And now I think it's time for me to lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.